Welcome, everybody, to the November Tech Talk with Bram. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. And as always, feel free to ask your questions inside of the Zoom Q&A. We are going to try to pull questions from YouTube as well. Hopefully, we don't get raided again and have an overwhelming number of questions that can't be passed through. But we're going to do our best in that regard. And I just want to give a big shout out to someone that you don't get to see on these webinars, but is a huge help for us, and that's Ryan. He operates everything in the background for us, runs all the technology, and is a great asset to make these webinars what they are. So thank you very much, Ryan. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the Tech Talk with Bram. And Bram, thank you very much for taking the time with us once again. We always appreciate getting your insights on a monthly basis into Chia, different puzzles, things that are occurring. And today, I really want to focus a little bit more about security of blockchains and keys in general. We will, of course, have multiple questions come in from the community as they deem fit, and we'll go through those as time permits. But if you don't mind, just kind of a high level overview of what is ECC, and that's
Oh,
elliptical curve
elliptic curve
cryptography.
cryptography. So, oh man, I'm in danger of giving like a super mathy answer to this question. Um, there are these things called groups that are mathematical objects that are basically what all the efficient public key algorithms are based off of. Um, and you've the one that has the brand name is RSA, which is based on simple multiplicative groups. Um, Ironically, cryptographers are scared of RSA. Like it's really, really fiddly to implement RSA properly. Um, the the thing that's more confidence inspiring from an encoding standpoint is called Diffie-Hellman, and um, and you usually use it not as a you usually use it as a shared secret protocol, sort of. I'm trying to avoid getting into too many details here. Um, Elliptic curves are much, much smaller. There's fewer bytes to express them, and it's much less computationally expensive to get kind of the same level of security as you do out of using multiplicative groups for doing Diffie-Hellman. And they also have this other feature that there are pairing curves, um, which that gets kind of involved, but in answer to what's going to be one of your follow-up questions, that allows you to have very trivial aggregated signature, non-interactively aggregated signatures, which I'm guessing you're going to ask about those too.
Yep, you got it. You got it. And that's kind of, where it leads to is we have ECC and we have different implementations of signers across various blockchains. Of course, in Chia land, everybody knows BLS, and if people coming from Ethereum, they might know of Kekkak. But do you mind going through the differences between kind of those major signing methods and what it means for blockchain security?
um, uh, yeah, well, so Kekkak is a symmetric primitive. So there's two things that are used in cryptography. There are public key primitives which are kind of counterintuitive that they exist, where two people can interact with an actual attacker, a malicious attacker, interfering with messages between them. And that malicious attacker still can't really do more than denial of service them. I can't lie on their behalf. So that's public key primitives are able to do that. So when you're using groups, you're using it for that kind of stuff. Um, for um, for for symmetric, that's more just what people think of traditionally, that you both sides need the keys in order to be able to generate and read the things that are being communicated. That's the difference between public and private key, or public key and symmetric, or more common terms. So Keccak is a symmetric key algorithm. It's actually sort of a misimplementation of SHA-3 and Ethereum's why it's used, blah, blah, blah. It's dumb. Usually when you have a real cryptographic protocol, you actually have a few different pieces that are all kind of plumbed together in a fairly complicated way to do it. So it's a little oversimplified to say this uses this or that. Usually it's using a bunch of things that are all kind of hooked together in a complicated arrangement.
Absolutely. I know we've definitely seen that in Ethereum with the integration of BLS as they move to the proof of stake mechanism.
You know, they are using it somewhere in at the consensus layer, but Ethereum, they talked a really big game about how they were going to be using BLS everywhere. And they made some kind of dumb decisions about how they're doing signature, like how they're doing message augmentation. Uh, and they just did not get it deployed to their lower layer stuff. So everyone was supposed to be using BLS everywhere by now, and we are at Chia, but basically nobody else is.
And kind of more on that, why did Chia choose, why did we choose BLS? What are the key features that made
Uh,
it exciting?
the biggest feature of BLS is you can do non-interactive aggregation. So if you have a bunch of different things that are making a signature and um, each of them can individually just kind of sign it themselves. And then you just add together the signatures when you're done. And now this is a valid combined signature across all of them. And there's some other protocols that are supported by pairing curves, but that's the most obvious thing. It's not actually necessary for everything because there are other ways of doing multi-sig. Like this is the form of multi-sig that's done at the signature layer. So people can't even see that it was done via multi-sig when they just see the signature, which is kind of a neat feature, but not always what you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that almost leads into the next question here as to we've seen different chips come out over the last year for integrating SecP signing, and then most recently we have a Keccak chip for
Oh, I should
integrating
also,
Keccak. Mhm.
yeah, I should also mention uh because you can aggregate things, it's actually convenient when you're like making blocks because each block has a lot of signatures in it, but it only contains one signature field because you just aggregate all of them. So it actually does save you some bytes because you only need to do a reveal of like the public key uh, uh, for everything and not, and then a single reveal of the signature and the public key is, 48 bytes and the signature is 96, but so you're kind of overall ahead of the game because you're not having to do like a 64 byte reveal like you would for other things.
Absolutely, absolutely ends up saving that CLVM cost in the long run if when looking at the Chia application.
Yeah, kind of. That's more to bytes that you're getting charged for, but yeah, it goes to cost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, what is the purpose for us integrating other types of signing methods into Chia, such as SecP or Keccak operators?
Oh, it's all about making it so that different pieces of hardware that people have can be used as signers, making very easy integrations to those things.
Absolutely. I know we're well in the development of the iOS signer and
Yeah.
should have some news about that out soon. And that the SecP integration was crucial for the adoption of direct secure enclave. Not
Mhm.
only do we see different types of keys themselves, such as BLS or Keccak, but we see different types of custody solutions that are built utilizing some of these primitives, such as the multisig concept you were discussing with BLS. And I know one of those primitives that we've been working on in CNI is the vault primitive, which is kind of a different type of custody solution. Do you mind going into at a high level what is the Chia vault primitive? How does it differ from traditional keys? And kind of that differentiator between a single key vault and a multi-key vault?
Um, the Well, vault is a kind of a catch-all term for generally advanced custody solutions. But you have your most basic functions of a vault. So the simplest one is multi-sig. You could say, well, instead of just one key signing it, you have to have multiple keys sign things, and there might be formulas for what sets of keys put together are valid for doing this. And that's That's one thing. There's more sophisticated things having to do with being able to make like payments that have clawback. So there might be like a relatively small amount of signing that needs to be done to get your vault to make a payment, but then it's publicly visible and there's ways of clawing it back and saying, no, I don't want to do that, right? So you're exchanging security and convenience for it being slower to make your payments. There's another one similar to that where something is rate limited. So you have some set of keys that can't just drain the whole wallet, but can send out funds at some rate immediately. So it's a different security trade-off. So if there's a compromise of keys, they won't be able to completely drain the wallet, but they'll be able to make off with something before they're stopped. But the trade-off is then that you can make payments immediately all the time. So you don't have to wait like you do with clawback payments. And then related to all that, there's general questions around how do you rekey something? How do you, if keys are behaving badly, how do you change the whole keying setup to something new? And then along with that, there's what if somebody tries to initiate a rekey that's actually a bad actor? How do you stop that? That kind of logic. That's all vault stuff. And we're working on put together a spec for a V2 of that. This is really like job one of smart money is doing this kind of stuff, right? And nobody's working on it because it's very not sexy. But I'm excited about it. I've always been excited about it. And like the second generation vault for our cloud wallet is going to work this way. It's going to do well, the first generation vault for our cloud wallet does basic multi-sig, and the second generation is going to be super sophisticated and just very good to use in general, like appropriate for like, big companies to use for their internal funds, that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, very exciting. And I know kind of like what you were saying, we see vault, the term vaults used in other blockchains, and a lot of that is what you mentioned originally of an M of N signer that says you have to have this many people signing, but it doesn't have all of these other custody tools associated with it, such as the built-in clawbacks or the rate limiting or other types of controls in that level there. So I'm certainly intrigued to see how it's all going to shake out in the long run, and I know it's been exciting watching these be built. Do you mind diving a little bit more into those different use cases for a multi-sig vault as we're describing them to be built in Chia?
Well, mostly it's what I described. If um, you have funds and you have security concerns around these funds, right? That you might have like multiple employees who can access it, or in various combinations they can access it. You don't really trust these people. You might want to revoke it later, that kind of stuff. Um, and so there's just this question of how do you specify, just from a business logic standpoint, never mind technology standpoint, just what are the rules of what can be spent when and how? So generally speaking, you're going to want, like, if you have something that's in active use, you're going to want, some amount of funds that can be pulled out, um, and some amount of funds that can be pulled out at some rate, just whenever you want to, but not a huge amount. And then much larger amounts can be pulled out with a callback period on them. That's going to be a typical configuration. We actually are dog fooding a first version of something like this for our internal custody solution. And I am very looking forward to migrating off of that onto the next gen thing, which should be much, much better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this really goes to your point and your phrasing of smart money. And I want to
Yeah.
dive a little bit more into that term itself.
Mhm.
I know that that's essentially what's enabling our vault concept. It's
Yeah.
enabling clawbacks, it's enabling rate
Yeah.
limits. But what do you see the term smart money as, and how can that be represented in Chia?
Well, I mean, it's what it sounds like. You have a coin and it has rules about how it can be spent, right? That's kind of the whole point of having an on-chain programming environment here. Um, when you have Solidity style things, it doesn't really look like smart money. It looks like these big fat applications that just have a really expensive hosting solution for them, where the way Chia has everything set up, it really does look like smart money. It's very much based off the Bitcoin model of things.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. And great to know that that's all being built in from the get-go, so that once you set up one of those custody solutions, you, like you say, you can define that business logic, you can define those controls right on the offset there.
Yeah.
Now, we dug in pretty deep here. We got into key sets, we got into custody solutions, we got into vaults. We're going to go up a little bit higher level again here, and we're going to answer a few of the questions from our community members.
Yeah.
And I know you always like this one because you're a big fan of marketing. We
Yeah.
have a question in our Discord, which is, what are your thoughts on CNI's marketing team?
We have a new marketing person as of fairly recently. So don't have much to say about the new marketing person as of yet. He's new.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I know working with him, he's a great guy, and I'm excited to see some of his plans come to action, and we should start seeing that pretty soon here. Definitely exciting.
Yeah, I'm really big on under promise and over deliver, which is not the way of things in cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is very much about really a lot of just outright payola, just pay these not really news organizations to cover you and stuff like that. Um, uh, and it's funny because there's this perception of the industry as a whole doing a lot, which is really a bunch of bullshit. The industry as a whole is doing not much of anything, has very little actual tech being built to do much of anything, and a lot of just heat and light and different variants on Ponzi schemes. And that's because building something real is very, very difficult. But we are in the process of building these things that are very, very real, and those are, in the process of coming to fruition in what we're doing now. Another thing that I'm bad at is doing performative work. This was always a problem for me in school and stuff because, like, they, I talk about the style of answers that like AI chatbots give you. I call it high school homework assignment as the genre of it. And it's like I always felt like some kind of inferiority that I couldn't write these like very long answers to questions because something would ask a question and I would just give the answer and be like, what else am I supposed to say? I finished answering the question. I just can't blather on this bullshit. So I am sorry I do not give the public impression of constantly making big heat and light out of whatever work I'm doing. I'm too busy working to make a big show out of my working. So yeah.
No, completely understandable, and I know that's one of the things I like about you is roll up the sleeves and get the
Yeah.
work done type of mentality.
Mhm.
Another one of your favorite questions, and we always like to get it, is do you have any concern over the price of XCH?
Yes. I mean, I would like the price of XCH to be higher. I'm working on making the price of XCH to be higher. It's a question of how does one do that? And there seem to be some people who demonstrably have no technical skills of any kind, but can make a lot of money issuing meme coins. We're not those people. um, and that all that money going to those is actually a sign of things being very unhealthy. The people actually unironically getting excited about new meme coins is money that is being taken away from what would be potentially real development. And the people who are big on those things are overtly hostile to real technology because it's threatening to them. So the ecosystem is very, very unhealthy just in general and does not have its priorities straight. But I mean, I'm working towards making the price of Chia higher. We just got to figure out how people use Chia. So we have lots of stuff in the works from that. The most obvious one being we're building gaming, and so obviously, you get gaming out, people buy Chia just to game with it.
Most certainly, most certainly. And on that point, we have a question about development itself, and it's a little bit of a loaded question. So I'm going to
Yeah.
answer part of it before I let you answer it. And it's why does it feel like development is slowed down? And then the loaded part is nothing has been released this year except the bridge, which was built outside of CNI.
Okay.
I just like to say we do have a lot of things that have
Okay.
actually come out of
Okay.
CNI
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
last year.
First off, go fuck yourself. Um, just no. Um, The no, we have lots of stuff under development. We have lots of stuff with regards to carbon markets that's come out. We have the cloud wallet that's almost out. We have gaming that's almost out. We have lots of things that we have been working on. And really, honestly, a lot of these people who are just bitter are just being jerks. It's like, go fuck yourself. I'm busy actually getting real work done. And I'm sorry if my not having made a whole lot of money yet is inconvenient because it hasn't resulted in you making a whole lot of money, but I'm busy dealing with my problems like a mature adult, not getting mad at someone who I wanted to make me rich.
Absolutely. And turning towards that future, I know we've talked a lot about building gaming. We're building a number of other primitives, such as the iOS signer, which should be out here soon
Yeah.
as well. Let's touch on gaming. Do you have any updates or want to give a quick overview on the status of gaming?
Status of gaming right now, this is a little maybe, but we're hoping to have like a demo application, like a that people can try and use by around the end of the year, although that's looking pretty dodgy right now, because that's coming up soon. So yeah, just finishing up the polish on actually getting the core demo thing done. And my personal coding task right now, although yesterday I was working on some more proof of space stuff, but my personal coding task right now is actually getting the games actually up to date implemented in it, which is I have we have one game that's working, and there's two more that have like very old drafts of that I need to fix up. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know I'm really excited for gaming, and
Yeah.
we'll have a number of different types of games available for demo, if you will, and kind of show off how the referee coins work and how the state channels work, which are going to be really interesting primitives that we're building on top of the chain right now.
Yeah, it's people seem to it's not intuitive that it can be done. It's this very counterintuitive thing that you can both have real-time play. And by real time I don't mean, oh, the blockchain gets back to you in 20 seconds. I mean literally real time as you're in like the within the based off the round trip time between the players is the limiting factor on it. Have that and have it set up so people cannot cheat within the rules of the game. So that's that's a real piece of technology there that I'm very excited about.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm intrigued to see where people bring it outside of gaming as well, just for other use cases. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the community grabs and takes a hold of. And I know last, as you mentioned, kind of near end of the year, beginning of next year is its
What?
insights as
You
to the.
just you muted up for a second there. I don't know why.
Oh,
Yeah, I can.
all right, there we go. There we go. Looks like Zoom was switching my mic around for some reason. But yeah, yeah, definitely going to be a good time for developers to take a look at that repo and those code bases and work to build out their own solutions using these new primitives as well.
Mhm. Uh, yeah.
Now,
Well,
yeah,
gaming should be great for people who just want to get something done on Chia as developers because it's going to be relatively easy to make a new game. That's going to be a straightforward thing to do. So that should be fun. And also you can build trackers and stuff. So like, uh, like a whole bunch of people jumped on making pools when that became available because that's a fun thing that you can actually make money off of to do. And the gaming is going to be a lot like that. That there's a lot of things that for people to actually sink their teeth into and build. That since we've taken care of the really hard stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. Definitely a lot of fun for developers to get their hands on at that point.
Mhm.
Now, over to the proof of space, I know you
Yeah.
mentioned that you've swapped over to that and you are doing a little bit more development on the proof of space. Do you mind providing a status update and kind of an
I
overview?
Well, I think I covered last time. We have a bunch of things that putting together kind of a blog post for it. So we've switched around a bunch of the primitives, blah, 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 in our plans. The details are involved. We've got something really, really good that we're doing with very, very little potential compression in it. Um, there is going to be a bunch of trade-offs available that are going to be different K sizes, going from like all the way down to probably like K28 up to like K34. There's trade-offs are going to be that um, if you, well, obviously K28 is really small, which is convenient for filling in extra small things, but it's going to be a lot more disk seeks if you have a K28. That's going to be the trade-off there. So that they're smaller, and the amount the latency on the CPU to finish reconstructing something when you find it is much lower, so you can do them on lower end machines, but it's a lot more disk seeks to do K28s. So depending on what your setup is, there will be reasonable trade-offs that you can make. But it's looking like plotting will work at a reasonable pace, and farming will be low resources, and most importantly, there aren't going to be much of any real compression uh, attacks possible.
And that's great. That's great.
Yeah, working just now getting to the point
Learn.
of real implementation being done. So it's been a lot of theory work up till now. And now it's like, okay, we seem to have our ducks in a row. That's why I was writing some actual code the other day.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, thank you. We have had a little bit of a slowdown on the questions from the community, so if anybody is interested in asking Bram any questions, feel free to ask them in the Zoom Q&A, or we are also trying to capture any of the questions asked in YouTube as well. So feel free to post those in. We do have a question for you about the cryptocurrencies you own. I know we've
Uh,
talked about Chia directly, but
I don't own
expand on
much of
that a bit.
any cryptocurrencies actually. I think the what do I own? No, no, almost all of it is I indirectly own a lot of Chia because I have equity in Chia networking. That's pretty much it. I'm really interested in the tech. I'm not I don't really care that much about price movements.
Oh, completely understandable.
I'm not a gambler. I don't get a rush from price moving up and down, and I implicitly own so much from what I own in Chia that like it'd be silly for me to take on further risk buying more things. So yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. And we have a question from YouTube from Colin Lyons, and it's, have you considered making the new plot format NVMe only? Would it one be more resistant to GPU grinding?
Um, no. We've got it set up so that the amount of seeks you have to do is under control. And there are some trade-offs there because there's just like the basic filter at the front of the whole thing, which directly trades off against uh, which directly trades off against security, but we've got it so that the anti-dumb grinding, meaning just literally just making whole plots over and over again, that kind of grinding, um, that we're quite resistant to with the current with the parameters we're looking at right now. The we might set it up so that the filter is set to go down to nothing on a schedule, which would make it potentially really impractical to actually farm on hard drives. But that's kind of with the that would be with the assumption that we would likely keep pushing that, keep making new soft forks to push the date of that happening off into the future until basically hard drives are dead. Until both hard drives are gone and we're worried about the security implications of the filter being what it is. Um, but we're that's sort of an edge case thing. For our initial thing, it turns out we can support hard drives just fine for the way things are right now.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, and I know there's a lot of back and forth in that regard, and about whether or not SSDs could end up with additional compression, and it seems that that might not be the best initial route, but it's been interesting hearing all the changes for the new proof of space. So thank you for keeping us up to date on all that.
Yeah. Well, that's something where we're going to, once we have an implementation, which we're working on right now, is actually building an implementation of it. then we'll be able to really show it to people then we can do like real benchmarking and stuff. We have our thoughts about how fast it's going to go, but don't know 100% for sure until you have like the whole thing prototyped up. And then people really be able to look at it. It actually won't look all that different. Is the funny thing. It's like, it's not, we've got it so it's not really changing the whole process of plotting and things. It's just a bunch of the details of what it's actually doing when you plot are subtly different. But yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. All right. I do have a couple of other of topic based on the questions from the community.
Yeah.
So we have one from Roman, and this is about carbon credits. Do you remember how Apple announced its first fully carbon neutral Mac? Do you
Uh-huh.
think they use similar CAD technologies in their calculations and reporting?
It's hard to say. So first off, I day to day am not on the carbon stuff personally, but also it's a little hard to say when things are doing carbon neutrality. Well, first off, what carbon credits are they using? Often they're using really terrible ones. We're working on much better ones. Um, but also our carbon market partners are not terribly excited about bragging to the world that they're working with a cryptocurrency company. So we're acting as a good technology vendor to them, who they're just using because we're a good technology vendor. But it's not like for them a selling point to go around bragging that they're partnering with us. So yeah.
Mhm.
So we often don't get mentioned, even things that are implicitly talking about what we're doing.
Yeah, completely understandable for sure. And I know in this specific regard, I know it at the very least, at least one of the carbon projects that Mac or Apple in this case had purchased their carbon credits from does use CAD-T in order to track their data.
Yeah.
So there is at least some crossover in that regard directly back to CAD-T. And as a reminder in that regard to those watching, CAD-T supports approximately 85% of the voluntary carbon credit market currently. So a lot of those carbon credits are being, at the very least, tracked via CAD-T, which is supported by the Chia blockchain.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff there for sure. And then a follow-up question in that, do you think the reason that some of these partners don't necessarily want to disclose that they're working with a crypto company is a conflict of interest, or is it something else that is leading
Uh,
them to shy away from relaying that information?
Um, well, it's two things. One of them is cryptocurrency's got a little bit of a bad name, but I think that's secondary. I think the bigger thing is these groups are not super big on the technology, and often the people talking the press aren't really even sure what they're using on the back end for a lot of this stuff. So, so it's a lot of what's happening is just kind of moving forward quietly.
Absolutely. The way I have always described Chia and blockchain technology in general is kind of like an email. You know, you don't sit there and say, I'm going to use a word processor to draft a document, and then I'm going to go ahead and send it through an SMTP server, and then you're going to have to decrypt it based off of our key sets. And, we don't say that. We just say, I'm going to send you an email. And I think that CAD-T and a lot of the other blockchain technologies will kind of fall into that realm.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, regarding Bitcoin, this is from Janny Tarvanian. He indicates, I saw some mention of covenants being hacked with some collision stuff on Bitcoin. Do you have any insights into that?
Someone had a hilarious tweet about how Bitcoin developers, instead of going to therapy, are using 160-bit hash collisions to make covenants. um, uh, you know, there's a lot of these things that are kind of proof of concept. The people who have made them, in many cases, are massively overselling how practical these things are. Just they're ridiculous. But like to get decent covenants on Bitcoin, you either have to do hash chaining, which you can do today, or you need extensions to Bitcoin script of some kind to be able to do more. Without that, it's very, very limited as to what you could actually get away with. Like you get these things where, like, literally, I saw a demo where they're like, "Oh yeah, it's getting pretty close to practical. Like we can do a transaction that's like only 100 times as big as the block size limit in Bitcoin." Like, just obviously not practical at all.
Yeah, that would increase the bandwidth for that peer-to-peer communication a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's much easier to build real support for stuff in the actual scripting language instead of like hacking it in horrific ways.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. And kind of to that end is learning more about the language behind Chia and learning to develop on Chia. We have a question in the Zoom Q&A from an anonymous attendee,
Yeah.
and it's what computer language should we learn to understand Chia better, and what resources are available?
Oh, geez. Well, it sort of depends what part of Chia you're talking about. So Chia is written in a bunch of different languages. So it has smatterings of Python, Rust, CLVM, Chia Lisp, C++, and machine language. There's probably some like shell scripts thrown in there too, if you want to talk about the build system. Um, uh, we're we are working towards transitioning from Python to Rust in general, but in a walk don't run kind of way. Um, so yeah, we're trying to move our emphasis to mostly oh, and then UX elements in JavaScript as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but I would say um, in terms of things that are most likely to be really helpful going forward, that would be like Rust and Chia Lisp. And obviously, there's a lot more support materials for learning Rust than Chia Lisp right now. I personally have barely written any Rust at all. I've done a lot of pair programming with Art where he's writing Rust,
Mhm.
but I haven't really done it much myself. I've done a lot more Chia Lisp, and as always, Chia Lisp is a little behind. We've been improving Chia Lisp itself, but a lot of the newer features aren't like in the main build yet, and yeah, that's something we're actively working on improving. But docs.chia.net has a lot on Chia Lisp right now.
Mhm. Absolutely. And like you said, it's very much based on what your focus is, what you want to be building, because a
Mhm.
lot of development doesn't need to be done in Shieldless. The vast majority doesn't. It's, you can
Yeah.
use a lot of the current puzzles out there and use driver code like Python or Rust in order to interact with them.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yep, absolutely. That being said, actually, a interesting question directly for you. If somebody did want to learn Lisp, what would you recommend as kind of a first puzzle?
As a first puzzle for GLS, geez, huh. I don't know. Like a lot of the issues around Chia Lisp development is actually making wallet support for everything. Like it's that's a whole like hacking support into a wallet for something is more difficult than stuff. I'm not sure. Like once gaming is out, it'll be possible to play around with making game variants. So that'll be really good to do once that's possible. Um, Up until that, I'm not sure because every time I like start specking something out, even very simple things look very challenging. And so I'm not really so when you ask that question, I'm thinking about what are like real projects, not like what's a
Yeah, yeah, not like a Hello World project, but yeah.
Yeah. I think if you want an exercise that will actually teach you what's going on, rebuilding singletons, like making a different singleton
Hmm.
implementation, is a good thing to do because you'll learn a lot about how to make stuff actually happen in GLS by doing that. That kind of yeah.
Yeah,
Although
that's a great recommendation.
yeah, it's a bit of a project to do that, but it's a good one to learn a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a great way to start learning about the different layers of puzzles as well and how they all
Yeah.
interact.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
I think
Now we have
I
a
forgot
couple
to
of
mention
sorry.
about stuff we've done at Chia over the last year. We've had a lot of Chia Lisp extensions go out. Like we added messages to message conditions and a bunch of other stuff as well. Yeah, there's been quite a bit of active development happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, to the point about email, a lot of it is things that the end user doesn't generally get to see first and foremost, but
Yeah.
it does change what they're doing and how they're interacting with the chain and
Uh-huh.
the different capabilities available to them.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
a cryptocurrency is not like a bunch of use case features. Like a lot of cryptocurrencies are presented that way because they're a bunch of marketing bullshit. Um, but a cryptocurrency itself is, it's smart money. It's an extremely general purpose tool.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have a question about the cloud wallet, essentially vaults in general.
Yeah.
Um, and it's, will the cloud wallet manage accounts with large numbers of transactions better than the reference wallet?
Um, I, I don't. I know we had a problem at one point of an issue with that we were talking about. The intention is to get the cloud wallet to be like really bulletproof and performant over time. And we are likely to switch emphasis on development more onto the cloud wallet from our existing legacy lightweight wallet, mostly just because it's kind of a better way of doing things, like trying to hack it so you can sort of kind of talk to a not really trusted full node gets you an itty bitty bit of performance in some cases, but it kind of gets you sort of the worst of both. It gets you kind of crappy security with kind of crappy performance. And it's really seems to be better to go either or, where are talking either to a trusted full node or you're talking to your own full node that you trust that you're running.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I see as one of the biggest changes for using the cloud wallet is that you essentially have a wallet you can access. It has its own dedicated, trusted full node,
Yeah.
and it definitely expedites the syncing process just in that regard. And
Yeah, it's going to be pretty normal. If you have a really big wallet, it's going to be and or you have like a lot of privacy concerns, it's going to be really normal that you just run your own full node locally and talk to that, and that'll get you, good performance.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I know that's what I do also. And I want to give a shout out to one of our community members, Felix, and he did a PR, community PR beginning of this year, maybe end of last year, which enabled the ability to use multiple trusted full nodes or farmer peers. So that was definitely a great addition there as well, and helps in that regard.
Mhm.
Helps with that failover.
Yeah, yeah. In principle, what you really want is to have something which will, for the lightweight wallet, you want to have something that will talk to multiple full nodes and multiple not really trusted full nodes and make them look like one consolidated, much more trustworthy full node. But implementing that well is kind of a project, and uh, and it's limited about its API that it can do. It's just the whole way they behave in that protocol is different. So yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, Now, I'm not sure your insights into this one, but are we still on track for unlocking 100% of block space by the end of the year?
I can't answer that question because I'm not working on it, so I don't know.
Understandable. I know
Part of our moving to Rust is making stuff like that possible.
absolutely, and I know that's what Gene had been saying over the last year as well, is that we knocked out the vast majority of the work that needed to be done for rewriting the code, making sure it's syncing properly, making sure things like Raspberry Pis aren't going to be bogged down once we increase to 100%. So I would anticipate a soon TM on the 100% of block space.
Yeah, we do a lot of saying things are happening soon around here because people seem to not be able to take it maturely when we give dates, which are maybe, maybe not sort of dates. Um, uh, but yeah, it's sort of like soon and eventually. And it's like, the gaming and Cloud Wallet and iOS Signer, those are all coming out soon. Those are actually coming out soon. And then there are things like, doing another iteration of the pool protocol, and improving on that is in the eventually category.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have a couple other questions from YouTube, and this one is related to the cloud wallet also. It's from Coding as Art.
Mhm.
Are vaults on any other chain up to the level of the upcoming cloud wallet? So kind of to readdress the vault concept and how it's used.
No, no, they're not even close, actually. Just even in terms of just having a basic specification of what is good behavior, what is good business logic to do here, people just aren't even doing that exercise. They figure they're really ahead of the game when they just support multi-sig wallets. Because, yeah, it's unfortunate that people do not view basic security as really important.
Yeah, completely understandable, and definitely a good focus for the cloud wallet, especially with the enterprise customers on the edge here, and
Mhm,
wanting to make sure that they have nice, secure methods to start integrating some of these more crypto-esque and crypto-focused solutions that we're bringing.
mhm.
Now, back to gaming. This is a interesting one here that, of course, we are not tax advisors and we are not legal advisors, but I think we might be able to maybe provide some aspect to it.
Uh-huh.
It's a question from YouTube from
Yeah.
Vulb, and
Uh-huh.
it is how to deal with taxes in gaming. Every transaction is a taxable event. Players
Um,
get in trouble with tax office.
I don't know. Like, I'm not an expert in that. My guess would be that it probably does some kind of netting out that you can, that you can offset taxes on your wins with, you know, undoing taxes from your losses. Otherwise, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But but I'm not sure. We're going to do a little bit more digging into these things before we really release it to have some kind of set of references of here's things that may be relevant to what's going on with this, but haven't done that exercise yet. I will repeat, like I've said before, that it should be possible to do Chia gaming legally in many places that you can't otherwise do gaming for money because you're not doing it through a casino. But it's sort of like has the legal status of like playing like poker against someone else just sitting in somebody's living room while happening remotely over the internet.
Absolutely. Yep. And of course, make sure you reach out to your tax advisors, your legal advisors, because everything is different based on your specific locale as well.
Yeah.
Um, Now, a interesting question here about Chia in general,
Mhm.
and it's kind of your experience from building Chia over the last few years. What part of Chia are you most proud of from the tech perspective?
Uh, from the tech perspective. Huh. Well, Chia is this giant sprawling thing that has a lot of very different bits of tech in it. Um, so I would say right now it's it's really the programming platform that we've built to do programming on chain, which is still in the process of bearing fruit on it. That we're we've built this great thing and we have it. We're now showing what it can do. Um, I would say I was very proud. I can't say I'm most proud of the actual consensus layer algorithm because we're in the process of fixing the proofs of space in it. So I'll feel much more excited about bragging about that when we've got it back in fully working order.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And staying on kind of these more general questions here, what do you see as competition for the Chia blockchain format? And this is a question from Stubbs from YouTube.
Well, there's really not much. Sort of one of the blessings, actually, of us not getting much press has been no one's been trying to ape what we're doing because it's not hot. No one else is like, yeah. So we've been building all this great tech, and nobody's trying to make knockoffs of what we're doing because it's a bunch of work and it's not hot right now. So
Yeah, completely understand. And like you mentioned, a lot of it up till now has been building the foundation, the
yeah.
framework, and
Well, what
yeah,
we're doing is actually kind of a knockoff of Bitcoin. There's just this exercise. If you say we're going to take the Bitcoin way of doing things and make a next generation of that, what do you do? And then you get, something maybe like simplicity, and then the next generation of that, you get Chia, basically.
sounds like a good progression between generations of blockchain, and that simplicity might have been an Ethereum
No,
shout out there.
simplicity is on Liquid. That's the
Ah,
Solidity is on Ethereum. Simplicity is
oh,
very, very different from Solidity. It's easy to say one when the other, and they're totally different things.
a whole different world.
Yeah,
And this is a very broad question, and this is from YouTube from Clarence FML.
yeah,
Does Chia blockchain, I'm going to reword it a little bit,
yeah.
can Chia blockchain solve all of the issues in current blockchain and go mass adoption in the future?
Well, Um, it can solve a bunch of the issues. The thing it can't solve magically is scaling. So people make a lot of bullshit promises about doing on-chain scaling. And actually, a number of years ago, Ethereum was talking about the internet computer and literally just saying, oh, well, you'll just run all your shit on the blockchain and it'll totally perform, which is just fucking delusional, just crazy. And now they pretend like they never said any such thing, even though it was like their whole big push circa, 2018, 19. Um, but so no, you can't just magically have better scaling. We could, if it became necessary, like if there was really support for it, they would be very reticent to do this. Um, it would be not totally ridiculous for there to be a hard fork that increased the throughput of the Chia blockchain by like 10x. Obviously, this would reduce the number of full nodes a lot because it would make running a full node a lot more expensive. And it would also reduce fee pressure massively, which might not be the greatest thing. Bitcoin is obviously at a much greater monetary scale and still only intermittently has meaningful fee pressure on it. Um, so not talking about that seriously at all, but it would be feasible. It would go from like a really low end system to kind of a decent desktop using a bit more bandwidth to run a full node if we 10x'd it, because Chia has much better engineering and could do that. However, that's obviously not the internet computer. That's like like you're still very much like going, no, this is this is still a very high security, low throughput database, you know, and that's what it is.
Absolutely. And no need to try to force it to be anything it's not when
Yeah.
we have other solutions that can solve those problems.
Yes.
Now, speaking on kind of those limitations, if you will, this one's directed towards gaming, the primitive being developed. And this is from Tim Youngman, which
Yeah.
others might know as Monkey Zoo. So thank you, Tim, for the question. When it comes to the limitations of Bram's gaming primitives, what are the exact limitations and could they be improved upon in any way?
Um, um, it's a little hard to explain the limitations because a bunch of them can be worked around in not terribly obvious ways. So the suite of games that we're going to push out is going to give a pretty good idea of what can be done well and sort of what some of the limitations are. Um, it's basically limited to two-player games because the number of edge cases of goofiness of players trying to collude with each other, even just at the protocol level, is crazy when you get to more than two players. Um, and it's limited to turn-based games, but there are a bunch of things that you would think aren't turn-based that actually can be expressed that way, like California Poker that we're doing appears to have simultaneous play, but is actually simultaneous. It is actually turn-based under the hood. Um, the um, and there's some stuff about shuffling that's a little hard to explain. That you can have shuffles if they're like public shuffles, but making it so that you have the poker thing where like we both have hole cards and we don't know the other person's hole cards, but we know they're not the same as our hole cards, that's really problematic. Um, yeah. But I think mostly once we have a couple of games out, that'll give people a good idea of what can really be supported by it. It's, these like two-player, very small numbers of turns games And you'll get a good feel for what makes sense in the medium just by playing with the reference games that we make available at the beginning.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. And we are getting close to the top of the hour here, so we do normally shut down right at the top of the hour. I have a few more questions for you, but wanted
Okay.
to give everybody one last chance to get their questions in.
Mhm.
As always, if there are leftover questions, we post those to Discord, and we do try to come back around to those at the next Tech Talk, which will be next month. That being said, we've talked a lot about Chia. We've talked a lot about the puzzles and the work you're doing on Chia itself, but you have interest in puzzles that are in the real world too. Are you currently working on any real world puzzles?
I actually came up with something the other day and I need to fix my printer. It's broken. So I can print it. And yeah, I'm working on that. I'm working on me and a few other people actually are working on whether you can have a puzzle where the number of steps to solve it is hyper exponential. So that's kind of an interesting question working on that. So yeah, a few different concepts I've been noodling on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. You know me, I always love to see it, and reading what we were talking about the color theory stuff that you sent through in your blog previously. And if anybody in the audience is interested in learning what Bram does when he's not focused on Chia and puzzles and that wonderful stuff, I always recommend subscribing to his blog so you can get those wonderful insights into his 3D printing and his color theory concepts as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of random things on my blog. I will have, weekend projects and I'll do a write-up on those from time to time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Now we do have another question here, which is from YouTube, from Tranquillo. From a business perspective, why
Yeah.
would a company pick Chia out of other blockchains? Is there
Oh,
any tooling that stands out, or what would kind of be the main seller?
the main selling point is it's actually decentralized. Like if you want to use something and keep using it years into the future, um, the consensus algorithm is just way more confidence inspiring, and also the chances of just your software getting hacked just at the on-chain programming level is vastly lower. It's just much better at that than like Solidity is, just because it's designed to be a reliable environment from the ground up. So yeah, in terms of just the job one of doing basic security, it's really good at that. Also, it'll be more clear with like, especially once gaming and Vault V2 comes out, that just really basic functionality is going to be supported better, right? So right now we have some things that are pretty sophisticated, like with our polling protocol and stuff, but and we have distributed exchange we have as well, which other things do not have right now. So we have that DeFi stuff, which is really great. But we're going to in the future really have demonstrable like use case things, which in principle anything that's Turing complete can support whatever, but we're going to be ahead of the game compared to like where Solidity development is on just really basic use cases.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And kind of on that flip side, as we keep building more primitives and these new novel concepts into Chia, we've seen some things be redesigned or some updates being added to Bitcoin, or at least some thoughts of adding
Yeah,
updates to
but there
Bitcoin.
isn't really that much development happening in Bitcoin in general, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, there's what do you call plasms? Yeah. The like our pooling protocol is actually based off of a concept that's been around in Bitcoin for years. And I was at a Bitcoin thing the other day, and some guy was talking there about this the thing that makes it so that the miners actually do make the blocks and stuff is being worked on in Bitcoin. There are apparently multiple full-time people at different orgs working on this. There's issues with people not agreeing on the standard and bullshit, but people are working on it. And I raised my hand. I was like, Chia's pooling protocol is it's a knockoff of that protocol. The guy who was talking about it kind of looked at me with this shit-eating grin. Like, sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just, yeah, it's great, actually. It's a good idea. I wish you luck getting that deployed. It's unfortunate that it's not.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Bram, we hit the top of the hour, and we do have a couple of leftover questions, but I'm going to hold those for next time and give us some
Okay.
good starts for the next tech talk with you. And just want to say thank you very much for taking the time today, letting us dive into your brain, your thoughts on Chia and other blockchains and technology in general. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
Oh, no, yeah, I've been talking about what's in the works, and I don't have demos right now. And I'm hoping, the big upcoming demo is gaming, so there should be a, good demo of that in the future, and it should be, big announcement of at some point there's going to be a chip for the new proof of space. So that should be, and that will probably be actually a bit anticlimactic because it's a bit of a black for the vast majority of people. It's just a black box. It's like, what are the performance characteristics? Okay, cool, we can do that. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, thank you very much. And anybody who participated, I want to say thank you for all the excellent questions. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And to continue the discussion, feel free to jump into our Discord and ask any follow-up questions there. You'll find myself, Clyde Wallace, a number of excellent community moderators, and the rest of the Chia staff does float around quite a bit. So feel free to jump in, pick our brains. And then, as Bram mentioned, stay tuned for updates on gaming, the proof of space format, the cloud wallet primitive, the iOS signer, and all of the other wonderful things that are being developed here at Chia. But thank you all for your time today and hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.